Hey there, ramblers and rovers, this is Miguel, and today we are coming at you from Merida on a very sweltering night to discuss whether Chichen Itza is worth visiting on your travels through the Yucatan Peninsula. Chichen Itza is one of Mexico's most important archaeological sites, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Famous throughout the world for its beautiful architecture, its archaeological significance, and for the cultural heritage that it represents. As one of Mexico's most famous sites, Chichen Itza draws massive crowds from all over the world who want to visit it and who crowd its trails, and most importantly, crowd the pictures that you want to take while you're visiting the site. It is also not the cheapest site to visit in Mexico, considering that the cost of entry for foreigners as of this video is around 600 and something pesos, more or less something like $35 to $40, plus the expenses of transportation, getting there, food, accommodation, and everything else that goes into planning a visit of the site. So compared to the prices of doing almost anything else on the Yucatan Peninsula, it is not cheap. So I just hear fellow travelers ask themselves all the time if visiting Chichen Itza is worth it at all. During the course of this video, I am gonna give you my take and I'm gonna give you some context to try and help you decide if visiting Chichen Itza is worth it to you for your travels here in Mexico. So let's get started. So Chichen Itza is an ancient Mayan site that flourished during the Mayan post-classic period. That means that it flourished during the latter part of Mayan history, right before the arrival of the Spanish. It reached its splendor around that time, culminating in such amazing archaeological structures such as the castle of Kukulkan, which is the main pyramid that draws in the crowds, but also for its massive ball court, the beauty of its observatory, and the decorations on many of its other buildings. It is one of the largest sites ever excavated and open to the public throughout the Mayan world, comparable to other ancient Mayan archaeological sites such as Tikal in Guatemala or Calakmul in southern Yucatan or Uxmal just south of Merida. The importance of the site, the historical value, and the archaeological record left behind is invaluable for understanding the story of the ancient Mayan civilization and all the mysteries that we still have to unearth around its history. So this kind of brings me to my first point, which is who are you and what are your priorities, and do these really line up with visiting the site? So if you are somebody who is very much historically minded, and if you are somebody who appreciates culture, ancient civilizations, archaeological remains, somebody who loves learning about history, putting yourself in the shoes of ancient peoples, and visiting the sites of great historical significance, then Chichen Itza is very much worth the visit, despite the high ticket cost. This is because it very much gives back the value of the ticket with how much time you can spend exploring the site. A visit to Chichen Itza lasts something between 2.5 to 4 hours on average if you really want to be thorough and see most of what the site has to offer. So this isn't just a site that you're gonna visit for an hour, hour and a half, and then leave and just not remember. This is a major draw and a major site with some amazing structures that have been really well preserved and which provide a very substantial idea of how marvelous these ancient civilizations were. So if you really want to learn more about the splendor of the Mayan civilization, it very much is worth it to visit Chichen Itza, despite the high ticket cost, in my opinion. Another issue that I constantly hear travelers complain about Chichen Itza, and that might deter others from considering visiting the site, is the crowd sizes and the amount of visitors who flock to Chichen Itza. So I'm not gonna lie, Chichen Itza does draw huge crowds, especially during the peak tourist seasons on the Yucatan Peninsula. This can really turn a lot of travelers off from visiting the site because they have this perception that Chichen Itza is this mainstream attraction, almost like visiting the Eiffel Tower in Paris or, you know, something like that. And it's just not worth it because it's just what everybody else does. But I would argue that everybody else does it for a reason. And it's not just about the pictures you can post on Instagram after visiting the site. So a lot of people don't believe that Chichen Itza is really worth the hype. And for people who haven't really visited the site, this can be an attractive argument to latch onto if you're having doubts as to whether you should visit it or not. But let's be real for a minute here. Chichen Itza is an enormous archaeological site. It's way bigger than the one in Tulum. It's way bigger than Ekpalam. It's way bigger than most of the sites on the Yucatan Peninsula. It's also very well preserved and vastly explored, which is why it has so much to offer by way of attractions, buildings that you can visit and see, observe, details on the facades that you can appreciate, history that you can learn about, and also tourist infrastructure that you can make use of to visit the site with a little more ease. Although, yes, maybe if you're going to Paris and getting your picture taken in front of the Eiffel Tower is kind of a cliche, and so too is taking your picture in front of the Pyramid of Kul, it still is an impressive sight to behold there in person. And I really believe that your visit to the Yucatan Peninsula will very much not be the same if you didn't visit at least one of these major Mayan sites and just gave yourself the opportunity to experience what these amazing sites have to offer and teach us, even in our modern times. But just because Chichen Itza is a major site and a major draw and attraction on the peninsula, it doesn't mean that you can't also have these authentic experiences. You can sidestep the issue of the crowds either by doing one of three things. You can try to plan your visit during the low season, when crowds might be a little thinner, or if you're planning on visiting during, like a peak season, you could try getting to the site a little earlier, or visiting a little later in the day, or sticking around until later in the day when the crowds start thinning out. That way you can get to experience the site without as many people there to crowd your experience, while still visiting this amazing site and not being deterred by the massive amounts of tourism that the Yucatan Peninsula receives. So just to summarize this video a little bit and just kind of give you a little bit of extra motivation, visiting Chichen Itza is like anything else in travel. You never know what experience you're gonna have of a certain activity or a certain place until you're actually there doing it. Travel is about giving ourselves the opportunity to do things that are either outside of our comfort zones or that we wouldn't regularly otherwise do. Giving ourselves a chance to experience something different. So whether you're already drawn to doing this, and most especially if you are not, definitely give yourself a chance to have this experience despite the cost, which you can make back, let's be real, and just see what happens. Who knows? maybe you actually have an amazing time and learn about something you otherwise wouldn't have if not for a visit to this amazing place. Give yourself a chance to experience the stories that Chichen Itza has to tell. So I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this video. If you're interested in knowing more about Chichen Itza or getting a virtual experience of the site, we have this video about our own visit to Chichen Itza, or you can also watch this other video about our top 10 travel tips for visiting the site. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and keep us growing and bringing you amazing travel content from all over the world, showcasing the beautiful people, places, and stories that make travel such an amazing experience. Be sure to follow us on our next adventures, and until next time, amigos, keep on rambling and roving. Safe travels. Adios.